If you do have any technical difficulties throughout the course of this webinar, over the next course of the hour, press F5 for a reset. And if you want to submit questions anytime throughout the course of the webinar, please do so through the QA widget. And we'll give people 1 or 2 minutes to join before we start the webinar. Okay, let's get started. Like I said, it's a pleasure to welcome you all to IQVIA's webinar on social media intelligence. I'm Maureen Reid. I head up technology, patient and digital solutions practices here at IQVIA in Southeast Asia and APAC regional HQs. Over the course of the next hour or just under, you're going to have an introduction into SMI and understand the value that it will bring to your business. Joining us today in the webinar to lead this discussion are 2 experts from the field of social media intelligence and analytics practice. First of all, we have Tanmay Sakakar. He is the global lead for our SMI practice. He's played an instrumental role in developing out our practice over the last 13 years. He leads a high-performing team of analysts, physicians, pharmacists, and PV experts to drive our global delivery. And we're very lucky to have him on the call today. His topic of discussion will be focused on making a case for social media research in pharma and consumer health, with specific focus on the APAC market. It's a pleasure to introduce Divya Viswani. Divya is also an expert in social media analytics and has 9 years' experience focused on medtech, consumer, and patient. I want us to think about the following question. Why are companies moving towards social media intelligence, and why is it becoming more common practice? Well, it is where all unstructured consumer conversations are happening and waiting for us to mine those insights. It has a real impact on markets and perceptions. In today's world, social media is important for signal detection and measuring brand reputation. This webinar will outline how exactly SMI can help you understand the online narrative so that you can position yourself and your company to benefit from it. Thank you for listening in advance, and over to you, Tanmay, to take us through the detail. You're just on mute, Tanmay.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Thank you so much for introducing me, and thank you so much everyone for joining. And it's a privilege to present on this topic, and thank you for the opportunity. So let's take a look at a few things here, right? So now, why is social media intelligence important? We'll take a look at that in the next few slides. Now, if you were to ask me this question 10 years ago, the simple answer would be this one slide, right? 10 years ago, social listening or social media intelligence was not considered scientifically valid, meaning that it wasn't perceived as a scientifically valid, analytically robust, or fit for decision-making type of a methodology, right? So it was largely anecdotal, but a lot has changed since then, right? in the past 10 years, it has become an established methodology for research. In the healthcare space, and our team has contributed significantly to this area. And we have also, as a result of all the research we have performed, we have co-authored over 10 research papers with clients based only on social media. And these have been presented at some of the largest international conferences, such as ISPOR. Now, so while we traversed these 10 years, what changed, and what was it before, and what is it now? So that's what my presentation is about. But first, let's understand what is social media intelligence and why is it important. As you can see on this slide, nearly 8 billion people on the planet, and 5.35 billion people use the internet. And almost 90% of those who use the internet use some form of social media. And APAC usage in social media is quite high. Almost 60% of all social media users in the world are from APAC. So that's significant. That's a large demographic. And this is also true for the younger generation, because they have been born, especially the late millennials, the Generation Z, and the upcoming generation, the Generation Alpha. They were born in a digital environment. So when they grow up, their first source of any healthcare information will be online and social media. And that has been increasingly a trend, as we see in the past 10 years, right? So healthcare is a significant topic among social media users. And before the COVID-19 pandemic, almost 20% of all healthcare conversation was about diseases and everything. But after the pandemic, the healthcare conversation reached about 40% of all internet conversation. That's a significant increase. Now, let's take a look at what's happening in APAC. Here's a small poll question. Please answer the question on your screen, and then let's see what the results are. Let's give everyone a minute to answer this question. Okay. So assuming everyone has answered the question, let's see what the results are. Yes, not bad. Facebook, that is correct. Yes. So this is quite accurate. Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, which is also a Facebook property, are quite popular in the APAC region. Now, TikTok appeared so many years later than Facebook and Instagram, but it has captured the market quite a lot. It's growing rapidly in popularity as well as in usage. And we have been tracking physicians and patients' use of TikTok as well. And we have seen consistent growth in both areas. And this is not just, skincare products or some, OTC healthcare products, but serious diseases such as diabetes and multiple sclerosis or even cancer. So there's a lot of activity on TikTok and the newer networks such as Instagram, where physicians and patients are sharing experiences and opinions. And they are not only sharing experiences, but they're also searching for information. For instance, product reviews and reaching out to other patients to learn from their experience. And they consider that information quite valuable because it comes from somebody who is suffering through the same problem that they are suffering through. And that information becomes a part of their decision-making process. So a quick look at the number of users or the growth. So as you can see, Facebook, large market, share in terms of social media usage, followed by Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, much smaller but still significant, and Snapchat. So the users are across networks, and I have not even included all the networks here because of the because of the space. But online and social media have a significant role to play in how people consume health-related information and make those decisions. For instance, baby care product. Let's take a look at this, right? So this is for baby care products in APAC. Now, before making a purchase, users not only consume information from one source, but they go through an entire journey of digital touch points, right? They don't take information from they not only take information from sponsored sources such as brand websites, um, but they also read product reviews posted by other users, read blogs, go through answers posted by experienced users to questions posted by new and aspiring users, and visit product comparison sites. So it's not only a question of building a website and hoping that people will land there and learn about your product or therapy, but it's also about being proactive about reaching out to the users, physicians, patients, caregivers, and other stakeholders, if we were to drive engagement meaningfully and influence their decision-making process. So, and this is also true for a variety of conditions. Such here is a result of an APAC survey from 2023 conducted by Bain and Company. Over 75% respondents say that they actively research their symptoms and treatment options online. See, that's significant. 75%, almost three-fourths. And the information they find online influences their healthcare decisions, right? This means that it is important for companies to understand what is being said about their products online, in social media, on forums, on blogs, on review sites and discussions and all of that. And also what is found on the static websites, brand websites, information websites, and so on and so forth. Now, this precisely is the purpose of social media intelligence, right? Understanding in a measured and objective manner what consumers are saying online and consuming online. So this really is the definition of social media intelligence, right? So broadly, in the digital sense, social media research or the broader digital intelligence is to understand consumer needs, perceptions, perspectives, and behavior. The big question is, where is this information and how can it be collected and analyzed? So as you can see on the screen, right, in our experience, there are three broad categories of sources of this information that the patients are consuming and sharing, right? Number one is obviously social media. Now, social media networks could be specific to countries, but there are global social networks which are common to countries, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, blogs, and forums. But it's not economical to obtain information from these networks on specific topics every single time, right? And that is why we have social listening engines. And that is why I did not list the social networks as the source of this data, but these aggregation platforms, which really are the consolidating sources of this data, right? So that's the first bucket. Now, second is the content on information websites and brand websites. Not just the content, but also it is also important to understand what drives traffic to this content or to these websites. And that is, again, web content and traffic analysis. And that is the second significant source of what patients consume. And the third is what they look for. And this is about understanding information needs of consumers, and a direct source that is analyzing Google search queries and the questions they ask on discussions and forums. So these three broad categories of information sources comprehensively capture what the consumers are talking about and discussing, right? Sorry. Now, all these are strictly not social media, but information sources that matter, and these are all digital. And understanding what's happening on any of these platforms is basically social media intelligence that leads to our better understanding of consumer needs, perceptions, perspectives, and behavior. right? So let's take another little poll question here. So within your organization, what challenges do you face in conducting social listening projects? Okay. Hope everyone has answered the question. Let's take a look here. It looks like the responses are still coming, so I'll wait for another minute. Almost there. Okay. So here are the results. All of the above. Very, very true. There are many, many challenges in understanding what's happening in online and in social media and getting all the data. So conducting social listening in an organized, purposeful manner is not easy. And in our experience, life sciences companies face five distinct challenges in conducting social listening or social media intelligence. Now, this is not just anecdotal evidence gathering, right? This is collecting data, processing data, and meaningfully generating insights and taking any action. So, the first challenge is the data is big, especially so when you combine all the products of company and their competitors, and that data stream runs into millions and millions of data points, right? So there is big data problem here. So we need big data processing technology. Second is the data is diverse, meaning that it comes in various shapes and formats and sizes, and it is also unstructured. Third, the data comes in silos. It does not sit on one platform. It does not come from a single source. It comes from a variety of sources and also sub-sources. So there's a supply chain of data operation here, right? The fourth, it's more of an internal organization problem, which is that social media intelligence is not conducted by most companies as a centralized operation, but different departments tend to have local budgets, and they want to spend that budget, and they want to specifically address the problems that they have, and then that becomes an independent operation and not a centralized operation. And last but not the least, the compliance aspect of identifying and tracking adverse events and product quality complaints from social data, these are not proactively addressed. It also acts as a deterrent to the social listening process, because legal and compliance departments are also keen on making sure that everything is in place, and that's a significant challenge, right? So now, to mitigate these challenges, what should be done? So in our 13 years experience of doing social media intelligence, we discovered a 6-step process that allows us or our clients to mitigate these challenges meaningfully and run a smooth value generating operation. So let's take a really quick look at the process, right? So I can give a broad overview of the process, and then I'll be happy to address any questions if you have. So the first thing is, we need to consolidate social listening requirements across stakeholders, right? So that we can conduct an efficient and cost-effective operation. These stakeholders could be brand teams, medical affairs, digital marketing teams, SCP communication teams, patient engagement teams, pharmacovigilance, and so on and so forth. So once you bring these teams together, then it becomes a consolidated requirement and a collaborative effort. Then we create a taxonomy of keywords which we can collect data from, and the data has to be relevant to the business objectives. And these keywords may include brand keywords, competitor keywords, health conditions, companies, symptoms, and therapies, and so on and so forth. Right. Once we have all this data, we extract that data, and this is obviously large unstructured data, and it comes in again various shapes and sizes and formats, and hence it needs cleaning and validation. So that is the fourth step. That is called data preparation. Now, once the data is prepared, it is categorized by the algorithm to generate preliminary KPIs such as sentiment, conversation themes, top topics, audience information, etc. Right? But even after these KPIs are available on a dashboard or on a system, the data is not entirely usable because it needs to be analyzed against specific business objectives that we have set earlier in the process, right? This is where human intelligence comes in. And that is why IQVIA lays a lot of emphasis on combining technology with human intelligence, because technology alone does not solve problems. Humans making good use of technology is the key to solving problems, right? And lastly, but most importantly, we need to organize the insights into what and so what and now what. Meaning that what did we find, what does it mean, and what action needs to be taken. And this range of insights can recommend a simple disease awareness campaign to a more complex research initiative that can fulfill some clinical trial endpoints, and engage patients in a more effective manner, or engage physicians in a more effective manner, or support caregivers with financial assistance or education, and so on and so forth. So the insights that we discover during the process of social media intelligence broadly helps us deliver better research outcomes or deliver better engagement outcomes. So that is the purpose of social media intelligence. Now, there are some specific type of projects that are more successful in this type of research methodology than others. And in our experience, these can be identified as top priorities of social listening or social media intelligence. And we have Divya from my team who will walk you through some of these applications. Over to you, Divya.
Thanks, Tanmay. And before I begin, I'd like to thank you all for your time. Like Tanmay said, that there are certain types of offerings that are more successful with the help of social media research compared to others. And for the sake of this webinar, I have curated some of our offerings that are valid in the Asia Pacific region. And would help you drive meaningful insights. But like I said, these are only some of the offerings. But before I dive deeper into what these offerings are, I would like you to answer another poll question. This is the last one. And here I would like to ask you that according to your organization, which of these insights do you think are most important to drive your brand strategy? Let's give it a minute. Looks like the results are still coming in. A lot of attendees are still filling in the options, so let's wait a few seconds more. Okay, so let's see the poll results now. And looks like that the some of the most important insights that would help you drive your businesses would be to understand the consumer discussions and sentiment expressed by the stakeholders. And in the next section, we have curated exactly the offerings that would help you understand how social media intelligence can answer these questions, not just the consumer discussions and sentiments, but also what the influencers are speaking about and what are the channels used by patients and consumers alike, or even different stakeholders. So, like I said, this is only a small list of the offerings that IQVIA Social Media Intelligence offers. And this list pertains to not just consumer or patient discussions, but also other stakeholders, for example, HCPs, influencers, agencies, etc. So we'll start with the product life cycle. When we see the life cycle of a product, it starts with the development of the product, followed by the launch practices, and after some time when the product matures. So social media intelligence comes in all these stages throughout the product life cycle, starting with the first stage of it, where social media intelligence can help in measuring the digital landscape or help in the planning for the launch of a particular product. And this is, of course, not specific to before the launch of the product. The digital landscape is also applicable to any of the product stages. So the digital landscape helps you gain a broad overview of the online landscape for a therapy area to plan a social media strategy. It helps you understand the interests and trends among the users about the therapy area, the treatments that are ongoing for your brand if you're doing it in the later stages of the product, or for the therapy area if you are still planning to launch your brand. It helps you derive the opportunities of intervention, to sort of devise the engagement strategies, and strategize the messaging for your target audience if you are planning to launch your brand in the near future. It also helps you continuously monitor the performance of the digital assets, and assess the health of your brand against the predetermined metrics. It would help you understand the perception of the consumers, the patients, about the therapy area or your brand. It would help you identify the trigger of social mentions and identify signals early to sort of manage your reputation, as well as strategize the campaigns or your upcoming launch. So when we talk about digital landscape and brand launch planning, we essentially measure the social media mention volumes and the online buzz. What are patients, consumers, HCPs, various stakeholders talking about that particular therapy area online? What is the share of voice of the brands on the digital platforms? Not just your brand, but also your competitor brands. If you are early in the product life cycle, what is the buzz on your upcoming brand or your molecule that you are supposed to launch. We also look at the search trends and the query analysis, because that gives us a valuable insight into what stakeholders are looking for, what is the kind of information that they're looking for. And that includes Google search analysis to understand the commonly used keywords. We also look at reporter demographics. What is the popular stakeholder? Who is this popular stakeholder online who is generating the most content? Are these patients? Are these HCPs? Or any other stakeholder, so that you can formulate your brand strategy accordingly. We listen to the concerns, challenges, unmet needs. We do a lot of qualitative analysis on the top topics of discussions among the stakeholders, which ultimately help you strategize your campaign, your planning for your brand. Next, the kind of offering that I'm going to talk about is insights from patients or consumer experiences. This is to deeply understand the consumer or patient reported outcomes on the therapy area, looking at the sentiment that is expressed by the consumers or the patients online. Inflection points across all the stages of the patient journey or a consumer journey in a therapy area. It helps you identify and understand the patient and caregiver perspective, because on arms, there are a lot of patients and consumers who are giving you an unbiased view of their experiences with the therapy area, and these are some of the views that you would not even get from talking directly to the patients or listening to what the HCPs have to say, because online there's some sort of a wall that breaks down, and the patients or the consumers, they get a platform to connect with peers without any barriers. Understanding patient sentiment for a brand and the drivers of those sentiments, such as effectiveness, cost issues, ease of use, access, safety, etc., is something that we can also find from this kind of analysis. And we identify unmet needs based on patient conversations for planning patient support initiatives or increasing the adoption, or strategizing how to mitigate the negative sentiment. We can even identify early signals of the brand reputation by analyzing the patient sentiment. If there's a lot of negative sentiment coming up for a particular brand, early we can mitigate the effects of that negative sentiment in the future and plan key interventions in the consumers or the patient's treatment journey. The next segment, the next offering that I'd like to talk about is physician communication, physician or influencer communication. So lately on a lot of social platforms, especially TikTok and Instagram, we see that a lot of HCPs, especially younger generation of HCPs, they have been talking a lot about the therapy areas and the brands. They're also doing sponsorship of the products. They're actually engaging their audience, myself included. I follow a lot of physicians, and so do most of the people who are on the social platforms and are looking for valuable information directly coming from the HCPs or the influencers. So using our HCP identification and mapping offering, we identify key digital influencers, especially the HCP influencers, and understand what kind of influence they have on the opinion of the consumers online. We also understand what they think about a particular therapy area, or what is their opinion on various brands. We understand their voice on brands, their perception about various topics and experiences. In our experience, we've also seen that physicians, some of them, they list how their day-to-day experiences of treating patients go. So that is something that we can get from social media, from the HCP experiences. And we monitor the activity of these influencers and their engagement on their posts over time. This helps us understand their key interests and how they are engaging their audience, and tips us not just in understanding what is being talked about on social media by these influencers, but also in planning of various collaborative initiatives, because a lot of companies now are moving towards collaborating with HCPs. They are a valuable means of influencing their audience. So when I talk about digital influencer identification and mapping, we essentially identify who are the influential HCPs from different specializations of interest on social media. We do a comprehensive mapping of their footprint on social media platforms. By that I mean that we figure out where are they present exactly, on what platforms are they present, how many followers do they have, how many posts do they have, if they are posting engaging content, what is the reach of their content, and if they are being followed by fellow HCPs or just another consumer or patient. And then once we have mapped their presence over social platforms, we also look at the content that they're posting, and we see how relevant that is to you and your therapy area and the brands that you're wanting to monitor. Once we have mapped everything, we proceed to scoring, ranking, and segmentation of these HCPs based on the customized weighted scoring methodology that we have. And the parameters and the channels that are important for you. So this methodology can entirely be customized. And finally, we arrive at the list of top HCPs. We tell you what their likes and dislikes are, how to approach them. Are they even valuable for collaboration and engagement, and how these HCPs are connected in a network. So we also do something known as network mapping based on various parameters, and to figure out how these HCPs are connected to their fellow HCPs. Do they share peer-reviewed publications, or are they connected in some way on their social platforms, etc. With that, I come to the next offering, which is performance benchmarking and product innovation. So I'll talk about performance benchmarking first. This is to continuously monitor if you've launched any campaign, if you've launched any initiative, or to see how your brand is performing compared to your competitors. So essentially, we are using this particular offering. We are able to establish and monitor brand equity across digital and social platforms, and assess the importance or the impact of a campaign compared to the competitors' initiatives that are present online or on any of the digital media. And using this, we can inform campaign strategy. We can include content modifications. If you've already launched a campaign, if you already have a mature brand in the market, you can always opt for content modification, or improve the communication that is out there, and actually see in real time what is the impact that is making. So in this, we usually do a pre-campaign baseline setting, where we are looking at the metrics of the digital landscape and the social landscape before the campaign was launched, or we take a timeline before the brand was launched, and we try to measure it over time. We try to measure the conversation volume, the performance of the social media properties in terms of the engagement that they're gaining. We try to map the content that is there for the campaign on their websites or the advertisements. And we also do the qualitative analysis of the conversations over time, which is the sentiment analysis of the post, to see if users are talking about the brand or a campaign over time and how that sentiment is changing. And this offering is not just a one-time offering. And I will talk in detail about this when I come to the case studies part of it. But this can also be done in a continuous monitoring manner where we set up a dashboard for you, and we fix all the metrics that are important for the assessment of the brand health or the performance benchmarking, so that you can have the access to it and you can see in real time what is happening to the social conversations, how the sentiment is changing, how the search volume is changing, how the website metrics are changing for your brand or your campaign. And finally, let me talk about the product innovation. How this bit goes is a little bit more important to the consumer health companies, because they're always looking for innovating products, innovating their products, whatever the products are, the mature products are in the market already. And we see that on social media, we already have a lot of consumer conversations where they are listing out several uses of a particular product which are not really documented or prescribed. Let me give you a very common example. So take any soda-based antacid. While the prescribed use of that antacid would be to relieve acidity, we know that it has been used by the consumers for many years now, in baking, for example, or in cleaning, or in a lot of other purposes. So various consumer health or OTC products are being used by the people in ways that are undocumented exactly, and we can find that on social media. And once we do, we can help companies, consumer health companies, to list out these undocumented uses, the claims, the novel claims that the consumers are reporting, to expand the product portfolio. And not just that, even for the documented uses of a particular product, the consumers are claiming certain benefits, and we can exactly map those in order for their for the improvement of their campaign. So we can say that 90% consumers for a particular product said that it works by helping them feel good. And that's a particular claim, even for their documented use, that the companies can use very easily for their campaigns. And with that, I would like to take you through a few case studies that we have prepared. These case studies are regarding these 6 offerings that I have talked about right now. We have delivered various projects, about 400 plus projects in the last 13 years globally, in 50 plus languages. And these are only some of the case studies that I'm going to talk about today. Let's start with the first one, which is regarding the digital landscape and launch planning. So this one was done for a client in Asia Pacific region itself. And the client was about to launch a facial aesthetics brand. And we know that facial aesthetics, cosmetic surgery is pretty relevant in the Asia Pacific region. So the client really wanted to understand the information on online platforms that was used already by the competitors, the established competitors, what kind of branded and unbranded websites that they had, and other initiatives that were going around in this region in the facial aesthetic space, so that they could better position their brand digitally to the consumers. They had this very specific requirement, and we helped them establish the performance of the competitors' initiatives, and compare it with their planned initiative by doing a website benchmarking to understand the key traffic drivers to the competitors' initiatives. We did the search engine optimization and social media audit to identify conversation trends, search analytics, what were users searching for, what was their requirement, unmet needs, etc. We saw what was the popularity of the campaigns in terms of search engine results page, where the competitors' campaigns were exactly landing when searched for on Google. And we also mapped the digital opinion leaders here. So in reality, we actually combined a couple of offerings that we have. And using that, we did a campaign assessment, which helped them, launch or strategize the launch of their facial aesthetics brand properly. So our campaign assessment helped them identify top campaigns that were really popular. We assessed the target user response so that they could formulate their campaign accordingly. And the digital opinion leaders that we identified, they were leveraged during the product launch. This company actually collaborated with these opinion leaders to help promote their brand or talk about their brand. And the scheduled monitoring of the online activity of the consumers on the various facial aesthetics products that were already there in the market, it helped them assess the impact of the digital campaign that they launched later. So on the screen, you see some of these screenshots that we delivered to the client. Let me talk about the second case study. This is regarding the patient experience mapping. This was done again for a large pharmaceutical company, and this company manufactures a anti-obesity brand. They wanted to explore the obesity landscape in 5 regions, and 2 of these regions were Australia and Japan. Part of APAC region, and the project was proposed to monitor social landscape for 5 quarters in these regions. So we were supposed to deliver quarterly reports to the client aimed at enhancing the results of their obesity awareness campaigns, and the results from the patient experiences would help them enhance the business decision making by leveraging the insights. And in this, we did a very detailed, thorough research to identify the digital landscape, but also the patient experiences, to understand what are the preferred therapies for weight reduction in the APAC region. And what is the kind of patient behavior, what are the patient conversations, not just on social platforms, but also the kind of search behavior that the patients are exhibiting, to understand their unmet needs and concerns. The third case study that I would like to talk about is the influencer identification and mapping. So I already talked about what we deliver when we talk about influencer identification and mapping. This was done for a consumer health company who wanted to achieve a leadership position in the NSAID market, the anti-inflammatory market. They had a mature brand, and they were sort of losing the credibility of their brand because of the competitors, a large number of competitors in the market already. And they wanted to first find and then collaborate with the influential HCPs who were online, and understand what their opinions are, and then engage them in spreading the scientific content online. So on the screen, you see the examples of the kind of deliverables that we give. It is in an Excel, we map the DOLs for their presence online. We also list their topics of interests or perceptions. The ranking and segmentation of the DOLs is also done. And finally, the network mapping. And additionally, we can easily configure the profiles of these identified HCPs on our dashboard and map the kind of activity that they're doing over time in real time, so that the access of the dashboard can be given to you and you can actually see the kind of activity and the reach and the engagement that is happening in case you are planning to collaborate with them. The fourth study is an example of again the kind of project we did for a consumer health company to identify novel claims for an antacid brand, and like I said, online sources are great ways to identify the kind of uses that consumers are talking about for an established product online. And using this, the client was actually able to identify one new use of their brand and expand their product portfolio by initiating the research for that particular use of their already established product. So this is one good example of how identification of novel claims can actually be very helpful for consumer health companies. And finally, I am going to talk about the brand campaign and performance monitoring. The visuals that you see on your screen are the examples of the customized dashboard that we created for the client because they wanted to monitor the reach and the performance of their campaign in real time over the period of 1 year. And again, this one is also done for an APAC client who had launched a campaign in the urinary incontinence space. The drug was targeted to women, and they were launching a campaign to see what is the impact of their campaign, what are consumers talking about their brand versus the competitor's brand, what are they searching about the urinary incontinence and the products in that space, and what is the kind of sentiment that they're expressing. So all of these KPIs were incorporated in one single dashboard where they could just toggle from one window to another and see the performance of their campaign in real time on this particular dashboard. So with this, we are at the end of the webinar, and I would like to hand it over to Maureen, who can help you close the webinar.
Perfect. Thank you, Divya. I personally love when you go through the case studies because it really brings what